टाइम पे आना है कि नहीं आना है?
लाइव स्ट्रीम चालू हो चुका है, जो भी बोलोगे सब रिकॉर्डिंग पे जाएगा। प्लीज
वो
टेक केयर।
अक्षय बोलेगा भाई वैसे ही करना है।
जा चुका है उसने बोल ध्यान से बोलना।
देखो अक्षय, यू आर द डायरेक्टर, तुमने बोला कैमरा स्टार्ट रोलिंग, तो फिर मतलब चालू। निमित विल स्टार्ट।
हाँ वो तो है।
स्टार्ट मेरे सर ने बोल दिया, सही बोला उन्होंने। प्लीज गो अहेड।
चलो करना है स्टार्ट।
हाँ
हाँ लेट्स स्टार्ट।
ओके, तो सभी को रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज कृपया अपना जूम का जो म्यूट करके रखें, सो डिस्टरबेंस ना आए। सो हाय एवरीवन, welcome to Fin Talks by EDI Alumni Association. Myself, Dr. Mukti Shroff from 10th batch, and I am your co-host for today's session. After 2 successful sessions, it's so good to see you all logged in from different parts of India, and that's the uniqueness of India. अनेकता में एकता। आज के सेशन के लिए कुछ चंद पंक्तियां मुझे याद आ रही है जो मैं सुनाना चाहूंगी। जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने, तब दुनिया को गिनती आई। दिया मेरे भारत ने, तब दुनिया को गिनती आई। तारों की भाषा भारत ने पूरी दुनिया को है सिखलाई। देता न दशमलव भारत तो यूं चांद पे जाना मुश्किल था। देता न दशमलव भारत तो यूं चांद पे जाना मुश्किल था। धरती आकाश की दूरी का अंदाज लगाना मुश्किल था। सभ्यता जहां पहले जन्मी जहां पे कला। सभ्यता जहां पहले जन्मी पहले जहां पे कला। अपना भारत वो भारत है जिसके पीछे पूरा संसार चला, जिसके पीछे पूरा संसार चला। So friends, it's not India's decade, it's India's century. And to decode the rise of Indian growth story, today we have with us a very young dynamic entrepreneur having a business in packaging industry, in cable and broadcasting industry, as well as business in the hotel industry, and who completed his master's from EDI in new enterprise creation, a fabulous finance storyteller, and now an author of a book, Investing Over a Cup of Tea. None other than our very own Mr. Nimit Brahmbhatt. Welcome, Nimit sir. Nimit sir, today we all want to deep dive in the ocean of history of India's growth after independence, and also want to know why the world is bullish on India and how we grow, impact of war on friends. आपको जो भी कोई डाउट है या आपका कोई भी क्वेश्चन है, वो ये सेशन के बाद जो क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन है उसमें बॉक्स में आप ड्रॉप कर सकते हो। So Nimit sir, please over to you.
Okay. So before I start this session, let me just say that because we are diving into history, we all have different political ideologies. So let us not focus on the political ideologies, but rather go with the facts and accept what has happened, and rather not think that if a different government was there or might have been there, the scenario would have been different. So I'll start by sharing my presentation. So from 1951 to 80s, we had many crises. I usually talk about crisis so that we understand the value that we have right now, and the challenges that we have overcome, and the growth we can see actually. So you can see that in India in 1950s, after the partition, we had food crisis. We were not having proper supply chains, not having proper storage facilities and all. In 62, we had war with China. You all might not, we don't know about the war that much, but we have heard or read in the textbooks. We had war with China, we had war with Pakistan in 65, and immediately the next year we had drought situation. So India faced a very difficult situation in the first 2 decades. Then came the Indira Gandhi in the 1970s, wherein before that Nehru Gandhi died and Indira Gandhi was our Prime Minister of India, having the socialist ideology that the Nehru followed. She implemented MRTP Act, that is monopolies, market restriction trade policies. So that the government or the companies do not have monopolies in their situation, and the local, what you can say, the consumers are supported and well behaved. So in this manner, what happened to India was that earlier, before the British Raj, we had our GDP contribution to the world was 23% of GDP contribution. It came down to only 3% because of the British rule and the socialist behavior and what we faced. Because in 1970s, the MRTP Act was there, we were shut down from the world. We were not part of the trade practices. The companies were not allowed. If you might have seen the movie Guru, you can see Abhishek Bachchan telling that we are not allowed to sell beyond, we need permissions. There was license Raj and everything was that. What happened in that? That in 73 and 74, we had a fiscal deficit that widened to 3%. During that time, the oil prices increased by 300%. That is, from it increased from $3 to $12, resulting in a 22% inflation on annual basis. So now if we move from 70s, we had socialist government. When we come to 80s, we had his son who was the prime minister, who was appointed the prime minister in 80s, because Indira Gandhi was shot down because of the incident that took place in the Gurudwara. So when you look at this map that I have made of the Sensex historical data, this whole data is collected from DSE. So if you see, we started our balance of payments problem, that is our current account deficit problem. We didn't had FDIs during that time. We didn't had that much FIIs, and we started problem during 1985. To reduce all that, Rajiv Gandhi was known as a technocrat. He brought Maruti and all. But similarly, by opening the, ironically, what should have happened didn't happen, and we still faced more fiscal deficit, resulting in 1990 was resulting more problems over the period. In 1990s, we had the PV Narasimha Rao government, wherein the Dr. Manmohan Singh was our finance minister at that time, and he made a wonderful reform. We got our independence in 1947. We got our economic independence in 1991, where the Manmohan Singh said that we will liberalize, we'll reduce import duties, we'll allow FDIs, we'll allow FIIs, we'll allow the domestic institutional investors as well as the retail investors to invest in the market. And the license Raj was demolished, and all that was happening. Even though we had liberalization, our situation at that time was so bad that the government had to pledge the gold that was confiscated from the Maharajas or the Rajas, and that was pledged to fuel our imports. In 1992, we had Harshad Mehta scam. So preceding, in the just next year, when we had our economic liberalization, we had Harshad Mehta scam. So what changed overall in the 90s when we talk about Harshad Mehta scam? So what happened is the Soviet bloc, which was there, that we what we call as Russia right now, collapsed. The collapse caused an impact that we used to trade in rupees, and now we had to trade in dollars. The government was on the verge of default, so it pledged the gold. Our economy opened in 1991. Harshad Mehta scam happened in 92. We had a widening gap of manufacturing and an industry. So industry doesn't belong just to the manufacturing, but rather there are more components that construction was taking up and allied activities were taking up. So what happened? Uh, the government, ironically, if you look at the 1991 liberalization, it was done so that we bring in new technology, more manufacturing should happen even here. But rather, there was no service charge, so service sector economy skyrocketed, and if you can see, the gap is in the industry and in the manufacturing has declined over the years. And that is the irony that we are facing. Right now, the government is saying that we should be focusing on manufacturing. What used to happen earlier was we used to do technology transfers. We used to bring any company, we used to sign technology transfer. And for 30 to 40 years, we used to carry that same technology with us and manufacture for just India and not outside the world. So when you look at this economic policy instrument, you will understand that the whole method, or when you understand that the economic policy instrument, you will understand that the whole government which focused on socialist, rather focused on export-led industrialization. They removed the controls and regulation. The market was driven by technology. The technology started growing up as I grew up. I remember I was born in 1995 and the technology has gradually improved. And right now we have 5G. So technology has grown over the years and it started, the internet was new thing. So service sector started growing more, software exports started growing more. We had more outward looking trade policies that the government was supporting more of exports. There was removal of FDIs. Earlier, the FDIs were not allowed. If you might have read the news or anything, you might remember the incident where Coca-Cola was once here before the 1991 and they had to pack up and go back because of the policies. Now they are back here again after the 91 reforms and the things are moving smoothly. So the tax structure and everything that was there simplified even more. Right now it is even more simplified than what we saw in 90s, in the whole 90s era. In 92, we had Harshad Mehta scam. So what happened what was the result of Harshad Mehta scam? So if you look at household savings, अगर मैं household savings की बात करूं, तो household savings are simple कि हम लोग कितना सेव करते हैं अपना total income में से of the whole consumer side. उसमें से कितना पब्लिक प्रोविडेंट फंड में जाता है, कितना सेविंग्स अकाउंट में जाता है, कितना शेयर्स डिबेंचर्स में जाता है, कितना कैश में रखते हैं, वो सब कुछ होता है. So if you look at the line that I have underlined, if you see it here, we had a total household savings in 80s to 86. It represented 7.1% of the GDP. Then in 1991, it was 11%. Till 96, it was 17.9%. And then the whole backbone of getting into shares and debentures and buying all was cut down because the retail investors as well as the institutional investors suffered losses. You can see it here that it was only 4.9% of our total household savings. Now, if you look at the household saving rates, you will understand that 50s it was 0.3%, 0.4, 0.6. In 90s it was 1.3% of the total GDP contribution. Then it came to 0.3. Right now it is increasing. It is again 1%. It is moving to 2%. And we are increasingly investing in shares. This is excluding the mutual funds and life insurance pension funds and the other funds that we are invested in. But this is only the shares and debentures of the company. Right now, you might see that we have a boom, but Harshad Mehta broke the backbone of the shares and debentures industry at that point of time. And if you look at from 92 till 2002, it was almost, the Sensex was almost flat. So it was at 92, it was 2615. And in 2002, it was 3377. So it has not moved that drastically as it moved after 2002 and what it is now. So what happened after the 90s? So as I told that it moved into till 2002, it was relatively flat. Then we had a boom period where IT sector was growing overall in the world, not just in India. Then we had 2008 financial crisis. Most of us remember it as a Lehman Brothers crisis. What happened? We were not impacted by the Lehman Brothers crisis because our economy was not that much open as it is now. But rather we were impacted by the oil prices, which touched $140 per barrel. And it broke our economy again. But in the next year, our Sensex increased from 9647 to 17, it doubled almost. Reason being that whenever US enters into recession, the oil prices decline. So you can see that in 2008, the per barrel dollar price of oil was $140. Now in 2009, it was $41. So the difference that we have because of the recession of US gives us a direct or an indirect benefit that we can purchase the crude oil in that sufficient manner, and the current account deposits or the deficit that we have can be shortened. So this was the thing that happened. Then again in 2013, we were faced with another crisis that we call that as an economic crisis, where the policy initiatives that were taken by the Manmohan Singh government was known as anti-growth. And what happened during that time was currency depreciated from 53 rupees to 62 rupees in a span of 6 months only. You can see the current account deficit also growing at widened at 5% in 2013 in this particular graph. While you can see that what happened because the currency moved from 53 to 62. What was the reason? The reason behind that was the US federal government announced that it was tapering the stimulus which was offered to banks. So in 2008 financial crisis, the banks were offered a stimulus package so that they can grow, they can grow their assets and become stable. It was then taken back in 2013. The DIIs or the domestic institutional investors thought that we might face another Lehman crisis or 2008 financial crisis situation. So you can see the outflow that started in 2013. It was major till 2014. And then again, after 2015-16, we were back to normal. So it was because of the panic that we faced and our currency depreciated. Then we had a new government in 2014. I can say a full-fledged government because there was no coalition government during that time. from since 2014. So what changed our economy or what made India resilient was that in 2013-14, Rajan improved the NPA criteria. So earlier what used to happen that banks used to roll over the loans and were not showcasing NPAs. So the people in the industry told that you need to change the criteria. Raghuram Rajan changed that and banks started declaring NPAs. So banks are clean. In 2013, when we had economic crisis, Nandan Nilekani's brainchild was formed. That was Aadhaar was formed. After 2014, government announced Jan Dhan accounts where you can have 0 rupees even in the deposits and savings account, and you can still have a bank account. The financialization of the economy started. The government came up with new startup policy, new incentives, new subsidies for the startups that were starting now. More FDIs started inflow, more FPI started. We were faced with demonetization in 2016, which cleared the parallel economy, what majorly people say. In 2017, we had GST implementation suddenly after that. So the previous taxes that were bit complicated were now smoothened out. And in 2019, we had COVID, which was not basically our fault, but one of the major thing that I have highlighted at the last is pension fund can invest in equities. In 2015, the government allowed that the pension fund investments which the government employees or the employees used to had were allowed to invest into equities because the government bonds or corporate bonds were not enough for the inflation, considering inflation to the whole family after retirement. So they were allowed to invest in equities in which the pension fund grew uh, and skyrocketed like anything. If you can see the composition of household savings in financial and physical assets here right now, you can understand that out of total 100%, how the economy has evolved. You see that earlier in 50s till 70s, the financial products were not that much utilized. And majorly investments were made in physical assets such as real estate and gold and silver. And even the bonds and all were not utilized. In 80s, from 80s, that was from the time Sensex started, major people started diverting their assets, not just in physical, but rather also in financial assets. And now we have the same ratio maintained. In this graph, if you look at it, you will understand that our mutual funds from 1819 before COVID in 1920, it decreased. So this is all the net financial assets, or what I can say is the household savings that retail investors and domestic institutional investors invested this amount, this much crores in mutual funds. Right now, it is back on track. We are showing resilience right now. Similar fashion, you can see that new age retail investors are coming up. So people started the new age retail investors, which I say started in 2019 during the COVID when there was a dip of 25% where the Sensex crashed. And since then, the direct flows of retail investors have started growing into equities. So currently what I see in future and why India is showing resilience is because there are few things that are happening simultaneously all over India. The first is there is a China plus one strategy. That is, the companies or the MNCs are figuring out that we cannot rely solely on China, but rather we need to have strategic locations such as Vietnam, Bangladesh, China, Europe, and other countries, so that we can do manufacturing in that. So right now you might have seen that Tata is making semiconductors and is growing into defense. Uh, Vedanta is getting into chip manufacturing. We have new policies that is coming into API manufacturing. That is, Himachal Pradesh announced that they will allow uh, similar to GIDC, and they have allowed SEZ in Himachal Pradesh. Chemical manufacturing is growing right now because of the Paris climate change. They are reducing their emissions, and the zero COVID policy that they are following. Right now, the countries want to shift it to India because it is the only cheapest solution possible. We are growing into electronics manufacturing. Currently, it is at $80 billion. By next 2 to 3 years, it is expected that we might have a $200 billion of industry of just electronic manufacturing. Why? The reason being we have a 5G rollout, and the government is still planning at 6G over the next 8 years. We have something called ONDC, that is Open Network for Digital Commerce, wherein it is a total, it is reducing the monopolies of companies such as Amazon and Flipkart. We have Open Network that is coming up, that is for the lending similar to ONDC. You can ask me on a detailed explanation in the question answer session regarding this, that India Stack is bringing Open, it is bringing ONDC. We currently launched CBDC, that is the central bank digital currency, that we launched in 1st November. The concept paper came on 2nd October, and we launched immediately in the 1st November 2020. So we are moving faster than the world. Then, as you can see, the Tata deal that is happening, we are also focusing on defense exports and the new age industries. That is the what I say is that the climate change investment companies like Adani Green, Reliance, and all are focusing on renewable sectors. So this is where there is growth. This is where EV is coming out, ONDC is coming out, lending is growing. Currently, if I show you some numbers, we are having resilience because our inflation is currently very low. If you look at our bond rates of the 10-year bond yields, it is somewhere around 7%, wherein our inflation currently is around 7%. So we are not having that much problem. We are also, if you look at the scenario of US and Europe, they have very low interest rates and the inflation is high. So they are having more problems than India. And this is the first time I have seen in the history of India that our Reserve Bank is being a laggard and is scaling back and saying that whatever US is doing, we need not do the same price hike or rate hike, interest rate hike, and we are comfortable with our position right now. Many people say that the GDP numbers or we are achieving growth, but we do not understand how the growth is there and how it is happening. So in 2008, EPFO started sharing its monthly data. You can access it from the MCA government website. So in the last 4 years, we added 3.5 crore employees on informal sector. If you talk about informal sector, the data is not available. So for that data to be collected, the government has launched eShram portal. And if you look at the Sensex historical returns, if you had stayed invested from 80s till now, you would have attained a 14% CAGR returns. But rather, if you remained for a decade only, from 1980s, you would have attained 23.85, then 22, then 14.7, and right now it is somewhere around 11% over the last 8 to 9 years. Reason being, there was crony capitalism that was going on. The books were not that clean. The frauds were happening, scams were happening, and the promoters were not that clean. Since 2014, all things have started cleaning up, and we have started, the actual numbers are coming up, and the returns that we are getting is based on the government directives and the RBI that has gone strict, and the SEBI that has gone strict, that you cannot do certain things, or the companies cannot do certain things and have to report certain products. So that is why we have gotten a few 11% CAGR returns over the last decade. If I talk about the current scenario over the last 1 year that we are facing with war, we have supply chain crisis, we have inflation going on. I already explained regarding the inflation. If we look at supply chain crisis, currently we are actually adjusted to the supply chain problem. You might remember that when Bajaj Chetak came new, people had to wait 1 year to buy Bajaj Chetak. When telephone came new, people had to list their numbers and had to say that we want all this telephone, and the waiting time was almost 6 months. You go to buy a car right now, because our population is so much, demand is already there. The only problem that we are facing is the supply side. So we are adjusted to that. You can wait for 6 months or 7 months to buy a car. If you go and have the same thing in US, they need a car in 1 or 2 days or max a week. They have not seen this waiting period. So they are facing more crisis than what we have. We are doing much better than the Western world or the developed economies, which I can say. If you look at Sensex and Nifty in compared on a relative basis, we have gone flat or moved sideways. That we have grown. If you look at today's data, over the past 1 year, we have increased 4%. Rather, the Sensex has moved 4%, but US Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and all has moved negatively by -18%, -25%, -10%, and we are showing resilience. So all the emerging countries which are going to be benefited from the China plus one strategy or the financialization that is taking place are being benefited over the last 1 year. So if you still stay invested, it would be a better time that you might earn good returns over the next 6 to 7 years. So that's it for the presentation. You can ask me the questions.
Guys, if you have any questions or doubt, you can ask Nimit sir.
Yes, so I have unmuted everyone. They can ask me if they wish to ask about any specific stock, industry, or anything.
Nimit, I have two questions. I don't know if they are interrelated or not. First one was you told CAGR, right? In 2010 to 2022, it's around 10.08%. Okay, so we can expect that if we remain invested, then we'll get more returns. Okay, then this I don't know if it's related to the second question or not. The second question was in times of turbulence or in terms of war, what are the sectors or what are the stocks we should look at?
So usually what happens is during the times of war, whenever war happens, the first is defense goes up because the production of that is going to get up. Then the FMCG sector, that is there, wherein the necessities that we take, usually bread, butter, and all those things, that we require in day-to-day life, without which we cannot survive, that goes up. So you look at the, I won't say that you invest in that particular index, but rather look for good companies, or even in defense sector, look for a particular company which you might think that will do good in this business and for over a long time, and even plan exit strategy or invest only a part of your portfolio into defense sector. Because currently what is happening, we are not having so I am saying this proudly because right now the new government, what is the Modi government, what it is doing is, currently we are not having new technology transfer agreements. Rather, we are telling those companies that you manufacture here in India, we'll support, and the companies such as Tata's, Mahindra, and all are taking their orders. So they are coming with strategic tie-ups, manufacturing in India, and then we are going to export it to the world. So right now we are not just making it in India, but we are making for the world and exporting it to the world. So that is the thing that is happening in the defense sector over the next 5 to 10 years. So yes, defense is a very good sector if you look at it, but look for its promoter, whether it has the ability, the capability to allocate its capital in a proper manner or not. Otherwise, you won't be getting returns. If I say the example, right now we have new age industries coming up that is into renewables. Currently, majorly people are saying EV, 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 but there is no actual economic value addition that is happening to the industry or to the economy. The players are coming in. It has become like a commodity right now, EV, the whole EV segment. So the infrastructure is not ready. The infrastructure will get ready. What will happen is after 20, 30 years, when the infrastructure is totally ready, the companies that the new companies or the new age companies that at that time will be benefiting from the infrastructure that is already set. So this is EV. I'll talk about the old industry. If you look at the telecom sector, we have 5G rolled out, right? But we still can't see Geo, Vodafone Idea is into losses. Companies like Bharti Airtel or Geo is surviving, right? They have listed, we have listed companies such as Indus Towers and all. So majorly, people who are in telecom sector are not benefiting, but people who are using the technology and providing services are benefiting more rather than the people in the telecom sector. So that is also one thing that you should understand.
And about commodities, anything that you would suggest, like steel or something, that stocks we should watch?
So if you can survive the volatility, I would suggest going for lithium ion that is coming up, because in batteries it is utilized, and steel and all is old one. So I would not recommend that, because there is price volatility and you might enter into losses also if you might exit at the wrong point of time.
Yes, my question is over.
Yeah, I have a question, Nimit. You know, the thing is that the new economy companies like the e-commerce company, you
Yes.
know, most of the Indian e-commerce companies are either replication of the US model or a European model. And, you know, the investor shows very much, you know, excitement in the beginning while the listing happens. But after the listing, the over some period of time, the share value tanks or, you know, it decreases. So, you know, how to overcome this situation for a retail investor or for an investor like us?
So the one best thing that you can do is not invest in e-commerce companies. So currently, what the government is doing is coming up with ONDC. What ONDC is doing is there are 3 layers which I can explain it into a simple manner. Currently, we have the whole model of the platform access. Let's say you are ordering food from Zomato. So the customers who are on Zomato and the restaurants should have to be on Zomato, right? What ONDC is doing is it bifurcating and democratizing the whole e-commerce industry. And what it is saying that you can order food from HDFC Bank application also, Ola application also, or any other application also. All the vendor or the food service provider needs to do is get registered on the seller application, which is on the ONDC protocol. So right now, IDFC Bank is there, Paytm is there. So once the seller gets registered on the ONDC seller application, he is registered to all the applications that are available on the ONDC protocol. So what you can do is you can just understand that I don't like Zomato UI, but I like more the HDFC UI, and it is giving me better discounts from their behalf and not from the seller's point. So I am going to order from HDFC. The order will still be placed to the restaurant that you want to eat from, or what you wish to have from. So currently we are democratizing, and what we might see, so the current e-commerce problem that is there is they need to find the customers, they need to compete with the discounts. What we might say is there might be many buyer applications that is towards the consumer side that we can open from. Then the seller will have to be registered at one place only, and you can access from everywhere. So there might be a supply chain, different person for supply chain or different company for supply chain who specializes definitely in supply chain. There might be companies like Zomato or any other which are good into UI and for buyer application, and there would be seller application which are specifically good at sourcing. So all 3 would be different, and we will have the ability to choose whether I want to buy it from this particular vendor, whether I would like to have this logistics as my supply chain, when it has to be delivered, and how it will be delivered. So currently our whole e-commerce system is going to change over the next 2 to 3 years, and then we can probably look upon investing in good companies which might be able to benefit from this whole changing scenario. We might wait. I believe that I should wait.
Understood.
Nimit sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
एक्चुअली सब बोलते हैं कि विकास मोदी के राज में विकास कहाँ होता है, विकास तो नेताओं के पतलून में होता है. यू नो ऑल दैट थिंग्स आर कमिंग नाउअडेज जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ महंगाई. सो महंगाई बढ़ गई है. सो माय क्वेश्चन इज कि महंगाई हो या कुछ भी हो, पर पॉलिटिकली कितना स्टॉक पे अफेक्ट करता है, और उस हिसाब से कौन सी ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी रहती है, या ऐसे कौन से स्टॉक होते हैं जो वाइजली हम इन्वेस्ट करें तो कोई फर्क नहीं आएगा फॉर लॉन्ग टाइम.
पॉलिटिकली काफी इम्पैक्ट रहता है. जैसे मैंने बोला 19 जैसे इंदिरा गांधी के टाइम पे सोशलिस्ट गवर्नमेंट थी, तो उनका आइडियोलॉजी एक होगा कि भाई मेरे को कॉम्पिटिटिव प्रैक्टिस नहीं बढ़ानी है, कैपिटलिज्म नहीं बढ़ाना है. द न्यू गवर्नमेंट 2014 स्टार्टअप्स आना चाहिए, FDI आना चाहिए, FIIs आना चाहिए. बाहर से पैसा लाओ, कमाओ, तुम लोग सब लोग कमाएंगे तो कुछ आगे बढ़ेगा, और अपना इकोनॉमी इज नियर 3 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी तब जाके होगा. एंड इवन फॉर अ शॉर्ट पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, 5 years पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, एवरी गवर्नमेंट वो 5 year प्लान जो होता था पहले, अभी भी है, पर वो हर चीज को मतलब ये पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर को फोकस कर दे. तो अभी किसको फोकस कर रहे हैं? एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को कर रहे हैं. PLI स्कीम आ गया, प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव्स आ गया, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक चिप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, सेमीकंडक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. तो बाहर कुछ भी हो, अपने को शॉर्टेज नहीं होना चाहिए, अपना सप्लाई चेन का क्राइसिस नहीं आना चाहिए. कल एक साल के बाद सपोज ताइवान, अगर चाइना और ताइवान का वॉर भी हो गया, एक साल में टाटा वो लोग सेमीकंडक्टर और वेदांता और वो लोग चिप वो लोग मैन्युफैक्चर यहाँ करेंगे, then we won't be having any problem on supply side. So the make in India that was there, or the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the future which they were able to see, was that we should be resilient and self-independent, and not just create for India, but rather create for world. So currently electronic and the IT is into focus. So if you want the name of companies, I can give you the name of companies that I have invested in it. So currently I have invested in Titan, I have invested in Infosys, I have invested in Tata Elxsi, I have invested in Larsen and Toubro Infotech. So these are the IT companies that I have invested. Then there are other FMCG companies that I look at. The reason being I always look at FMCG is we have a $2,200 per capita income. So if you have a calculator, it would be easier for you also. So अब देख लो, 2,200 का $3,000 per capita income हो गया. So if I divide the $2,200 by 50%, जो रोटी कपड़ा और उसमें चला मकान में चला जाता है, that remains to 1,100. तो $1,100 का अपने पास बचता है, उसमें से I divide 50%. 50% is जो रेगुलर ट्रांजैक्शन में ये वो खर्चे में चला जाता है. तो 1,100 divided by 2 is $550. The remaining $550 are being invested. If you look at $3,000 per capita income, it won't be 50% into physical assets, because तुम बार बार मकान पे इन्वेस्ट नहीं करते रहोगे, वो उसका कॉस्ट उतना बढ़ने भी नहीं वाला. So still I'll take 40% into consideration. 1,200 is gone out of $3,000. We are left with 1,800. Still we are saving 50%. That is $900. So from $500 to $900, that jump is very high, which would be spent on discretionary products such as doing maintenance of your house, buying an AC, buying a car, or sending your son or sending your daughter to private school, or spending way above that you earn. And all that will be the major sectors which I think that, because the discretionary spending, because we are actually increasing in financialization also, it will increase. So if you look at from 550 to 900, it is almost double. Probably a 40% jump. That is not less.
True. Thank you. It's very helpful. Does anyone have question?
The session is open. Mahavir sir, Palash bhai, Amit sir, Manisha ma'am.
Anyone have stock specific or industry specific question? I am ready to answer.
Pratha ma'am, Dharang bhai, Bhavik bhai, Viplav bhai, Ravi bhai. Anyone can ask.
Nimit, my question is not specific to stock, but what do you think in next upcoming 2 to 3, 5 years, will manufacturing sector will increase or not?
Yes.
As per the policies and all.
So because of the policies, what we are seeing right now is the contribution of manufacturing industry is increasing. The new cars or the new technology, as I said, that electronic manufacturing is $80 billion. Over the next 3 to 4 years, it will become $200 billion. Right now in manufacturing, we are manufacturing API. So it is somewhere around 8 or $9 billion. It is going to increase. Right now, even for the shortest term period, if I give you the example, people have been talking about the Foxconn, that people started jumping from the Foxconn factory because there was a zero COVID policy in China. So China exports almost $40 billion of iPhones. So that is the shortest opportunity that is available to the India, that right now we have a plant set up here. We can increase the production not only of iPhone 14, but all the iPhone models, of MacBooks, of iPads and AirPods, everything that is coming up right now. So that is the shortest opportunity which you can see. Even in
Correct.
the whole setup in telecom industry, we are the fifth country. I can say that we are the fifth country to have the indigenous 5G technology from end to end. And other countries are waiting that when you develop the pilot testing and finish the pilot testing and start running it smoothly, we are going to purchase it from the EU, because we believe that you will not interfere with our data. So that trust that India has will also start.
Correct. Correct. So recently I visited the Defense Expo. So first time it was like that they are just promoting Make in India project, and they are planning to export almost around 80 countries, that each and every product will be manufactured in India, and it will be served all over the world. This was their project mind.
So recently in news, you might have heard or have seen the news. Jai Shankar said no to the Americans that we don't want to buy planes from you. Rather, if you agree to manufacture it in India, we are willing to sign a contract with you and we'll export to the world as well as buy the planes.
Correct.
We'll not do a technological transfer agreement and import the planes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Nimit bhai, I have a question.
Yes, yes.
So, as you said, during recession or during any war type situations, FMCG stocks goes down. So, I have been observing, especially ITC, and it in the most standard cases in the recession or in bad times also it goes up, and in good times also it is slow but steadily move ऊपर ही होता है. तो यूजुअली कैसा होता है, मतलब ये आप क्या कह सकते हैं इसके बारे में?
For the case of ITC, majority, I can say 45% to 50% of its revenue comes from cigarettes. बराबर, जो बाकी बच गया, that is into hotels and different businesses, the paper manufacturing, so it has diversified. दूसरा कि उसके पास जो रिजर्व, आप उसका बैलेंस शीट देखोगे ना, आपको पता चलेगा कि it has accumulated its reserves and it has not been able to find good opportunities to invest that reserves. Had it been able to invest into good opportunities and generate returns out of it, we would have seen ITC at somewhere else or at a different price level. But because it has, I once saw it ITC at 160 or 130, where it had reserves of 80,000 crores. So what are you going to do with the reserve? So even if you keep the cash idle, it is not going to earn you any returns. So that has been the case with the ITC. So we are not seeing returns from ITC, even though the cigarette business might be doing well.
Okay.
Nimit, if the answer is complete, may I ask a question?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Priyanka, please go ahead.
Namit, what do you think of Nykaa right now?
Nykaa, I have not looked upon into, but it is more of physical and e-commerce. I don't know how if it goes into ONDC, I probably believe that it might improve its EBITDA margin or net profit margins.
Like I checked out its financial statements, and it has been making profits, but its value has been going down over the past 1 year, I guess. But its major expense has been depreciation.
Yes, so it might be adding assets. So if it is adding assets, I would still hold on to it. And see, the main thing which I look into is promoter. If I believe in the promoter and the type of decisions he or she is making, then I am going to invest in that company or not. Whether if it even if the company has good fundamentals and I do not trust the promoter, I'm not going to invest in that company. So if you believe that the promoter is good, if his vision or her vision over the long term or mid term period is good and can improve from the further situation from this actual situation that is right now, I might stay invested or invest more in it or even might exit depending on the matching that you have with the investor, the founder ideology.
Okay.
Because I have not researched upon that particular stock that is still left to be valued in my portfolio. I have not done it.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask how to calculate the intrinsic value of a company that's based on valuations. Like we can calculate about companies that make profits, but अगर P ratio ना हो, लॉस बना रही हो कंपनी पर वैल्यूएशन के बेसिस पर इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करना है सो like what are the assumptions that you must take?
So you currently received my book. I have specific mentioned of the Paytm also. So what I see is I don't give weightage to the existing numbers. The numbers don't matter because the company is itself into losses. Rather, what is their focus for the future and my assumptions on it. तो जैसे Paytm में I assume कि tier 2 merchant transactions जब भी होगा तो it will remain the leader कि उसका 50% market share है, 50% market share होगा.
Yeah.
नेक्स्ट की एनवायरनमेंट कितना कॉम्पिटिटिव होगा और इंडिया कितना ग्रो कर रही है कि क्या है, तो दूसरा वेटेज उसको. तीसरा कि वो जितना भी कैपिटल अभी आगे इन्वेस्ट करेगा उसमें से कितना सेल्स जनरेट कर पाएगा, नॉट द रिटर्न्स. कि मतलब 1 रुपये का कैपिटल इन्वेस्ट किया तो उसमें से 3 रुपए का सेल्स हो पा रहा है कि नहीं हो पा रहा है. दैट इज द कवरेज. And दूसरा कि if they are entering into multiple, if they are into multiple products or multiple things, what I predicted that कि उसका he will increase in lending portfolio. क्यों? Because it has to move towards profitability. तो जैसे जैसे lending होगा वो interest में से ज्यादा कमा पाएगा. So these were the 4 things that I gave major weightage. Based on this, I made a DCF calculation that we were taught in college. Over the next 10 years, I assume that for the 5 years, it might grow at a 40% CAGR returns or at 40% CAGR. And after the 5 years, it might grow at the bond yield or the GDP growth that is 7% or 8%. It might grow on that. And then I brought the intrinsic value. When you bring the intrinsic value, it is not the actual price or the fixed price. It is actually a range that there might be a bad scenario, there might be a good scenario, there might be a worst scenario, and there might be a best scenario. So considering all the pluses and minuses, you calculate, you get a range of fair price that whether it is valuable or not for me to invest in the company. So when I calculated, it was around 599 rupees, what I got as a value, and it was trading at 490 or something.
May I ask the question?
बस एक सवाल पूछ लूं प्रियंका. I hope the doubt is clear.
Please, could you mute Cheshta, ma'am?
उन्होंने कर दिया.
Yeah, kind of clear है. थोड़ा होगा तो मैं एक बार बुक पढ़ के एक बार चेक करती हूँ.
Okay.
So Nimit, it is related to again manufacturing only. right now automation has started, right? And many of the technologies are coming, predictive manufacturing or IoT and all those things. So I understand a little bit about those technologies. So इसका impact कैसे पड़ेगा हमारे पास आगे? For example, automation आ रहा है तो will the labor be sent off or how will that impact our country?
So if you look at historical records also, the companies that were good or that are good, I would say, suppose let's say HDFC Bank, the way it has been able to multiply its revenue, the employee growth is not there. Because the productivity growth is there, the employee growth is not there. At the same rate. So that is one of the things that if you are just focusing on market shares rather than profitability, we might see layoffs and many things coming off right now or even in future. But if the company is that is focusing on profitability, cash flow compounding, and increasing day by day on making better use of their labors, we might see gradual increase. And we are actually, the EPFO data is there to showcase that what is the labor and where the labor is being utilized. What we might see is the work from home culture that government is coming up with the policy. So you might in short term period or even a mid-term period, you might see wage inflation coming up because the old laborer or any salaried employee is not willing to work at old salaries or wages, and they want a new salaries.
Mine is done. If you could, or Amit sir or Nimit or Priyanka can answer, what about IPOs that you were talking about? Like, should we invest in IPO or not? And what are the factors to be considered?
See, the simple thing is you can always invest in IPOs. मैं खुद नहीं करता वो बात अलग है, बट कोई और भी ना करे वो बात नहीं है. मैं सजेस्ट करता हूँ अच्छा IPO हो तो. It is very simple. तुमको अगर 15-20% रिटर्न वन शॉट में मिल रहा है तो तुम क्यों नहीं लोगे? That might be impacting your financial position also. कि भाई अच्छा हुआ तो मेरा 10-15 हजार का मेरा ग्रोथ हो रहा है तो मैं क्यों नहीं करूं? जिसको उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा वो शायद नहीं भी करे. So मैं बताता हूँ, the last IPO which I invested was Adani Wilmar. हुआ 1 महीना रखा फिर exit.
भी होता है क्योंकि उसके पहले जो भी वो लोग देते हैं लाइक वी केम अप विद अ लॉट ऑफ IPOs हमारे दूसरे डिवीजन में. सो अ लॉट ऑफ IPOs जो आते हैं उसमें यू एक्चुअली डोंट गेट द करेक्ट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स भी उन लोगों ने बना रखे होते हैं. दे एक्चुअली हैव एन एंटायर टीम दैट डिजाइन्स दो स्टेटमेंट्स. तो तुमको एक्चुअल रिपोर्टिंग भी नहीं मिल रहा है, कुछ भी नहीं है. इट्स जस्ट कि इफ यू आर गोइंग फॉर एन IPO तो ग्रे मार्केट प्राइस इज द थिंग दैट यू हैव टू चेक. ग्रे मार्केट प्राइस कितना चल रहा है तो वही आपको प्रीमियम मिलेगा. अच्छी अच्छी कंपनीज भी प्रीमियम पे नहीं खुलती है और बहुत खराब कंपनीज भी 100-200% रिटर्न देके निकल जाती है IPO पे. तो वो एक प्योर गैम्बल ही है. बट इफ यू एक्चुअली हैव टू रिसर्च तो चित्तौड़गढ़ करके साइट है जिस पे ग्रे मार्केट प्राइस पता चल जाता है. So you could go and...
Was anyone here like active when DMart's IPO came? Did anyone invest?
नहीं, DMart के टाइम पे तो मुझे आइडिया भी नहीं था.
I was not literate enough to invest in DMart at the time of IPO.
Actually, I was lucky to got all the IPOs. I don't know how. ऐसी सिचुएशन में हर बार मैं आगे क्यों आ जाती हूँ. तो मेरे ऐसे भी IPO लगे जो मुझे बहुत बैडली, जिसका कुछ था ही नहीं ग्रोथ, वैसे भी IPO लगे और अच्छे भी IPO लगे. जैसे कि HDFC के भी सारे लगे थे, रूट मोबाइल, ये डीमार्ट आपने बोला, मेरे सभी लगे. LIC भी लगा उसमें, अभी उसमें मैं तो माइनस जा रही हूँ. सो आई डोंट नो, बट या ये चीज है कि मैंने मेरी जर्नी पर्सनली IPO से शुरू की थी और ऐसे मैं लकी रही, फॉर्चुनेट इनफ कि अच्छे अच्छे IPO लगे तो मेरा पोर्टफोलियो फिर बढ़ता गया. वो आईपीओ का मैंने जो पैसा उसमें से निकाल के फिर मैंने अच्छे स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करना शुरू किया और ऐसे मैंने मेरा पोर्टफोलियो बिल्डअप किया है. सो ये एडवांटेज भी हुआ आईपीओस का.
Just I want to discuss. There was once upon a time an exchange called OTCI, Over the Counter Exchange of India. Maybe many people may not.
It still exists, sir. It still exists, sir.
So I invested in the IPO of a company called Vijeta Audio World. The promoter was Dharmendra, Sunny Deola, and the family. And they were in the business of making audio cassette, recording of the audio cassette. At that time, the audio cassette recording was also good business. So मैंने सोचा यार everybody is using audio cassette and these people are recording. So मतलब job work करते हैं और धर्मेंद्र की कंपनी तो मतलब आंख बंद करके मतलब IPO लगा दिया. वो शेयर्स भी अलॉट हुए, वो कंपनी भी चली, थोड़ी देर के बाद वो गायब भी हो गई, डिलिस्ट भी हो गई, व्हाटएवर. मतलब मेरे हाथ में कुछ नहीं आया. So and there was a company called JBM, that was called Jayanti Business Machine. तो मतलब IBM से बड़ा इंस्पायर्ड नाम था. तो वी थॉट यार IBM जैसा ही काम कर रही है तो इंडिया का जयंती बिजनेस मशीन, वो इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस मशीन की तरह, तो वो भी IPO लगा था. बट if my suggestion will be 10% of IPO will give you a good long term return, but 90% you have to be very, very careful. And if you do not understand which 10% you have to select, then it's better that you have to be keep little distance away. Because if you see, the latest example is the DMart. DMart was a good IPO. It left something on the table for the investor. But most of the IPO, maybe the investment bankers leave nothing on the table for the retail investors. That is what is my personal say. Nimit can add to it, and Mukti can add to it.
So whenever you go to the investment banker, the banker is never going to say no, because it has to earn its fees.
Yes.
So it will always give the best price, whatever is best for the customer. He will earn. After the lock-in period, he might exit. If the company is good, he might stay invested. So currently I have the data which I have even shared. So over the last 5 years, if you look at the IPOs that have been coming up over the last 5 years, that were 393 or 400 odd IPOs, 70% of the IPOs, 65-70% of the IPOs are into positive from the date of the listing. The price at which they were listed, they are into positive. But how much CAGR return is the different thing. Whereas 34-35% of the IPOs are down from its listing price also.
When we say it is less than the listing price, it straight away means that the capital is eroded.
So yes. So
for the investor point of view, if I have invested 1 lakh rupees, it has gone down 30%.
So if you might remember, Astron paper IPO came. It was probably a small cap company. It is a small cap company, I should say. It is one of my friend's relative company, and it was oversubscribed by 248 times. And it is below currently almost 50% of the listing price.
Nimit, Astron paper is the same, right? Harsh Patel from your class.
Yes, same.
In fact, Akshay, Nimit, and Mukti, whatever the new IPOs are coming, I think we should use our WhatsApp group to, have a brainstorming or, a self-analysis or, individual analysis to be shared. So that can act as a directive for the, our group at least, that, which is the good IPO to bag and participate, and which is not a good IPO to IPO which we should stay away. We should not, Swarnamruk deke Lakshman rekha cross karne ka zarurat nahi, warna Ramayan ho jayega.
Sir, actually, Priyanka from Midas Touch, she always releases these shorts and videos of newest IPOs. So I'll always keep updated. I'll request
sorry, I forgot to mention even Priyanka.
She does all these analysis very well. And we have Ravi Bhai, if you want to add anything about IPO, if you are here. Ravi Teja sir. No, he's not. He's not here. Okay. Nimit, please carry on.
Yes, if you have any questions, I'm still ready to answer. we have time.
Yeah, it's done, I feel so.
Think, yeah.
Yeah, so Akshay bhai and Mukti ma'am, it is over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nimit bhai. It is very informative and insightful session. But I would like to request our dynamic president, who is all time, helpful and very cheerful. So I request Palash bhai to say some words.
So Nimit, Mukti, Akshay, and Priyanka, it was very much good initiative which you took for this session and series. So today's session was amazing, and I was very glad that I was present from starting to end. So it was good for me also, and some also insight I got for the India what is going on right now with this. So better luck next time, and plan one session for insurance, one for purely for the banking, and many more topics you can get from here. So basically, go ahead with this, and it was truly very much insightful session, Nimit, and go ahead.
Thank you, Palash bhai. Akshay bhai, आप
I have something to add कि बोलते हैं ना अभी तो पार्टी शुरू हुई है तो ये सिर्फ शुरुआत है. अभी जो नेक्स्ट सेशन आ रहे हैं दैट विल बी लाइक अब लेवल ऊपर जाएगा कि फंडामेंटल टेक्निकल इंश्योरेंस के तो स्पेशली सर पलाश भाई आपके लिए रखे हैं. वो निमित इज अंडर टॉक्स with many like senior executives of very reputed firms and we are still in talks for mutual funds का भी सेशन जैसे आपने कहा था कि वो भी एक है और आगे ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. अभी IPO का है टेक्निकल जो प्रियंका एक्सटेंडेड सपोर्ट and there'll be many that will be coming up.
Super.
अब जो चालू होगा अब एकदम मस्त होगा.
तो आप लोगों को शायद